من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
يا ربي العالمين يا مالك القدوس عزيز.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Now, tonight we do have a new Inspector General of Police and he took off this office this afternoon. Now, what do you know about Douglas Kanja? I do have all the details for you. And in business, if you're young and interested in entrepreneurship, we do have a treat for you. And in sports, we have Karen Kibet, who recently won an award with all the sports action for you. But first, let's have the highlights.
A huge responsibility that comes with a measure of authority, but an equal measure of accountability.
There is a new sheriff in town. Douglas Kanja takes over as the new Inspector General of Police after being sworn in office. Is the country eating to its death? KBC warns Kenyans could be consuming edible oil and fit for human consumption. And pleading for a ceasefire, higher education PS urges striking dons to resume lectures and give dialogue a chance. And Muraru is our sign language interpreter. Remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments and feedback on our social media pages. That is KBC Channel 1 or even on Cynthia Nyamai. Now, Kenyans might have been exposed to substandard edible oil not fit for human consumption for the last 1 year. The Kenya Bureau of Standards Chief Executive Officer Esther Ngari told the Senate Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism that out of the 44 consignments received in the country in 2023, 8 samples were randomly picked and tested and did not meet the required standards and declared not fit. The remaining 36 consignments were cleared based on the certificate of conformity but were not tested by KBC as required by law.
73 consignments of edible oil arrived into the country in intervals in 2023.
The 73 consignments.
And as required, the Kenya Bureau of Standards KBC was expected to test the standard of the said consignments. Out of the consignments received in the country, KBC set aside 44 consignments for testing, out of which 8 samples were randomly picked from the batch tested and revealed they do not meet the required standard and were declared substandard.
These are the 8 consignments which we sampled on a surveillance basis, and they failed the results.
The first consignment that was rejected and insisted 6,500 jerrycans. It came on 10th of June 2023. This product, by the fact that they did not contain sufficient amount of vitamin A as prescribed by the standard, they are substandard.
The test further showed that the consignment failed in vitamin A test, which is vital especially when it comes to foodstuffs being consumed.
And the results that we have showed failure. And we did not release those goods. We rejected the goods.
What about the rest?
The other goods had arrived at different times and had been received based on certificate of conformity.
Appearing before the Senate Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism, the Chief Executive Officer Esther Ngare stated that KEBS did not destroy the substandard product, given that the DCI was investigating the matter.
Did we destroy the cooking oil after the 30 days? The answer is no. This cooking oil was subject of investigation.
Allah? By who?
There were already investigations going on by DCI.
However, the remaining 36 consignments were cleared on the basis of the certificate of conformity but were not tested by KEBS.
These are the consignments we have not yet inspected, so they are yet to be verified.
If you make a sample and the whole sample fails the test, I mean, statistically speaking, it means that consignment has failed.
Making it evident that Kenyans might have been consuming edible oil that is not fit for human consumption for the last 1 year.
That when we communicate ship back product or reject, we even indicate we destroy at your cost as an importer. So we do not destroy the product as KEBS.
The Kenya National Trade Corporation that single-sourced the said edible oil failed to bring substantive answers before the committee.
Chair, we had not gotten to that level of action by multi-agency. We communicated
to KNTC
as the importer.
Okay.
And indicated on action that should be taken.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the Controller of Budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakango, says her office is starved of resources, something she attributed to unearthing mismanagement of resources both at the national and county levels.
I cannot give the information in form of photocopies. I don't have the toners, I don't have the paper. I have changed from printing on Conqueror paper, I now use plain paper. And even then, I don't use colored letterhead. I use plain.
Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
Douglas Kanja is now the Inspector General of Police after taking oath of office Thursday afternoon at State House, Nairobi, in the presence of President William Ruto. The head of state urged him to ensure the police operate as an autonomous institution and avoid any form of manipulation or coercion in executing their mandate. Additionally, he pledged to support them in dealing with homeland security threats.
Douglas Kanja Kirocho takes over at the helm of the National Police Service following the exit of Japhet Koome, who resigned at the height of the Gen Z protest, coupled with the discovery of at least 9 bodies at Kware in Nairobi.
What is being installed now?
He took oath of office a day after the National Assembly okayed his appointment in a colourful ceremony at State House, Nairobi.
It represents dignity of the rank and the solemnity of the Inspector General's office.
President William Ruto expressed his confidence in Kanja's leadership, urging him to serve Kenyans with diligence.
And you will be in command of the largest body of armed men and women. It is a huge responsibility that comes with a measure of authority, but an equal measure of accountability.
The head of state used the occasion to assure the National Police Service of government support in terms of resources to enable them deliver their mandate.
The government of Kenya will go out of its way to continue to facilitate, both in terms of human capital, equipment, legislative and other policy support that is necessary to enable our security forces to provide security, safety, and stability.
At the same time, the President cautioned the new Inspector General of Police against succumbing to any form of manipulation.
Mr. Kanja, as you take over as the Inspector General of the Police, it behoves you to protect this police service as an independent institution in the service of the people of Kenya, making sure that all citizens are treated equally before the law.
Kanja, who will also serve as a commissioner at the National Police Service Commission, was the Deputy Inspector General of the Kenya Police Service. He now takes over from Gilbert Masengeli, who has been acting as Inspector General following the exit of Koome. Kanja has had a stellar career in the National Police Service, having served as Commandant of the General Service Unit for a period of 5 years and Deputy Commandant of the General Service Unit for 3 years.
Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja held a media briefing moments after taking oath of office with a pledge to dismantle criminal networks and ensure perpetrators of crime are brought to book. Kanja, who was surrounded by officers from the National Police Service Administration Police and Directorate of Criminal Investigations, read the Riot Act to criminals, saying he will ensure the country is safeguarded from acts of crime and terrorism. At the same time, he pledged to uphold the rule of law and restore the image of the police service that has been dented on claims of use of excessive force. He also urged the public to collaborate with the security agencies to maintain law and order. This as the Director of Criminal Investigations, Mohammed Amin, appeared to distance his unit from allegations of being behind abductions, pledging to unravel the mystery behind the disappearance of Kenyans.
First service is to ensure that law and order is maintained and to enforce all laws and regulations. When we talk about abductions, ladies and gentlemen, abduction is a penal code offense. An offense that we as officers of the National Police Service, we are supposed to deal with it decisively, investigate, profile, and take the perpetrators or whoever is involved in abduction before court.
Let me also mention that to criminals, let them not test me. We will not give them space. And in the same line, I want to urge the members of the public to work with the service so that we can be able to ensure that there is safety and security in our country. All manner of criminals, including cattle rustlers, including terrorists, and those who create terror, we don't have space for them. They better look for some other businesses to do.
A section of senators have called on the government to take deliberate and immediate action to protect Kenyans from the rising cases of abductions across the country. In a heated Senate session this afternoon, lawmakers expressed concern over the increasing number of forced disappearances, accusing the police of lethargy in handling reported cases or even being complacent in some cases. Several senators condemned the impunity with which these abductions are being carried out, urging the government to intervene and ensure the safety of all Kenyans. The remarks amid calls for government intervention on abductions of the Kitengela 3 and an MCA from Wajir.
I am begging the President of the Republic of Kenya, President William Ruto, the history of this country will never forgive you if these abductions continue. If individuals have extrajudicial killings where they are murdered because they have a different political opinion or where they are questioning government policy and decisions. Let us not think this is the reason why the young men went to the streets.
How can we explain to the new family of MCA of Wajir? How can we explain to a kid who is now 2 years old? Mr. Speaker, we need justice in every part of the Kenya. Mr. Speaker, if Kenya goes like this, what's the difference between Kenya and Somali? Where do we live?
Gilbert Masengeli, who until this afternoon was Acting Inspector General, is yet to appear in court ahead of the Friday deadline to avoid a 6-month jail term for contempt of court. Masengeli, through his lawyers, sought the court's permission to appear in person on Thursday. However, his lawyers were informed that Justice Lawrence Mugambi was unavailable as he was presiding over a different case. Meanwhile, the registration of school-going children to SHIF has suffered a legal setback after the courts stopped the exercise. More details in the court roundup.
A day after President William Ruto cautioned the judiciary and police against working at cross purposes, Gilbert Masengeli appeared to swallow humble pie and approach the court through his lawyer seeking to appear in person between noon and 3:30 p.m. to beat the Friday deadline and avoid jail time. However, presiding judge Justice Chacha Mwita directed the file be sent to Justice Lawrence Mugambi to give directions on Friday as he was unavailable Thursday owing to other duties. The move by Masengeli to honor the court summons comes as civil society organizations called on the newly sworn-in Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja to end police impunity.
Will lead by example by obeying the court order and present himself to the Commissioner General of Prisons to begin serving his 6-month sentence.
In a joint statement, the 11 civil society organizations also called on Kenyans to instigate citizens' arrests as enshrined in the Constitution if Masengeli fails to honor the court summons.
This guy should go to jail. If the law is applicable equally to everybody, then this guy should not remain at the position at all.
Should the CS fail to initiate the steps, we urge the public to initiate citizens' arrest against Masengeli.
I am available today, I am not available today. The push and pull between the IG and the High Court continues. What will be the end game? And the registration of learners to the Social Health Insurance Fund platform hit a legal snag Thursday after High Court Judge Jairus Nga stopped the mandatory registration of learners pending a case by the Law Society of Kenya, arguing the registration infringes on children's rights by potentially denying them basic access to education as it required registration under a law that is not currently in force. Meanwhile, former Laikipia-based MP Anthony Mutai Kimaru is a free man. Kimaru was acquitted on charges of stealing a title deed of a parcel of land valued at 18.5 million shillings in Nanyuke.
So in conclusion, the court has found that the accused is not guilty in all the 5 counts and is acquitted under section 215 CPC. So that is the judgment.
But his rights have been violated. He has been bearing the tag of an accused person. He's a former member of parliament. How is he being looked at by his constituents?
This was towards the elections, last general elections. And I believe my adversaries had a lot to do with this particular case because DCI was groping in the dark. DCI was doing very strange things.
Elsewhere, Ezekiel Sakwa, suspected of being a serial killer, has denied murder charges at Nakuru High Court. Sakwa is alleged to have killed 4 people between July 13 and August 7, 2024 in Nakuru County. The case is set for mentioning on October 15th. Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Now, the government has rolled out new regulations to govern employment both locally and abroad. Details on that and much more coming after the break.
officially the draw date ya Master Player ni tarehe 6 mwezi wa Oktoba. Zidi kucheza, jaza tiketi zako ikiwa ni star 570 hash option 400. Tucheze, tusaidie, tushinde.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs and is scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums. Colgate Charcoal, the charcoal toothpaste you can trust.
Living in Nairobi can feel like you're constantly bombarded with stressful sounds 24/7. So, can sounds like these instruments help with stress management?
There are different frequencies of sounds that'll resonate with certain neurons in the brain, and they will fire in a certain way in response to those sound frequencies, just like my eyes are being influenced by the red of your dress.
Dr. Alia has all the answers.
The first thing I tell them is be open to the experience, and secondly, surrender and let go to the sounds.
To learn more, join us this Sunday on Health and Lifestyle.
Welcome back. The government is appealing to striking dons to return to the negotiating table and allow the resumption of learning in public universities. Higher Education Principal Secretary Beatrice Nyangala says the ministry and union officials had already agreed on 5 contentious issues, calling for an end to the grandstanding. This even as learning in 35 public universities across the country remained paralyzed as lecturers and university staff down their tools for the second day in defiance of a court order barring the strike. Our reporter John Jacob Curia visited some of the public universities where there was little or no activity reported, with lecture halls remaining deserted as students chose to stay away or roam the university grounds.
Day 2 of the industrial strife at public universities. Learning remained paralyzed as lecturers and other academic and support staff sustained their push for the government to implement the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement that would see a significant increase in their basic pay and allowances. At Kenyatta University, students entered and exited the institution with no learning taking place. The situation was no different at the University of Nairobi, where a graduation ceremony is scheduled for this Friday. At the Technical University of Kenya, lecturers and staff break into a dance at the university grounds, a pointer to the learning paralysis at the institution. For TUK, however, it is the 3rd week of a strike since they went on strike on the 2nd of September, claiming they have 18 grievances, top of them being remittances to their pension scheme and the increase of their basic pay.
Even as we address you now, we have colleagues who have been sued by financial institutions. Faulu, for example, NCB has threatened because the employer entered into memorandum of understanding with such financial institutions. They deduct loans advanced to our members, but they do not remit.
The unions say they will stage street demonstrations from Monday.
If the government cannot improve the lot of these workers as we envisaged in our proposals, then the bare irreducible minimum is what the president himself came out when these high taxations were up there and every Kenyan was crying about it. He came out and said, okay, for the public servants, I'm going to give you between 7 and 10% pay rise.
We must be given a clear roadmap as to how we handle the issue of our pension scheme, which is now wound up.
They have accused the Ministry of Labour of attempting to intervene in the labour dispute too late in the day.
And when we were even looking at the letter inviting us, it was from the Office of the Commissioner of Labour. That we did not accept. We want formal invitation from his office as a cabinet secretary in charge of labor. He has a letterhead. He is serious that he wants to sit down with us for any consultation, for anything, or to offer an intervention to this matter. Then he ought to formalize that invitation.
We want our CBA 2021-2025 finalized. We want also the chapter CBA for 2017-2021 also finalized.
But Higher Education Principal Secretary Beatrice Nyangala has appealed to the striking dons to return to work, even as she called on their unions to return to the negotiating table.
It is our view, and we are fully persuaded, that our lecturers and non-teaching staff are patriotic Kenyans, and that they'll put the interests of the nation and our students first, and reach an agreement with governments with a view to returning to work.
The strike continues despite an order by Justice Dr. Jacob Gakeri on Wednesday, barring the unions from calling, instigating or inciting others to take part in the strike. He ordered the parties to continue negotiations with a view to resolve the dispute amicably. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
Thank you, Curia, for that in-depth report. Now, the politics of Mount Kenya took center stage during the burial of Raphael Munywa, who was, until his death, the Deputy Governor of Lamu County, while Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua steered clear of politics, instead calling for unity of purpose. Central Kenya leaders present urged him not to abandon his quest for unity and development of the larger Mount Kenya region. They assured him of their unwavering support despite constant criticism from various quarters.
In a show of solidarity, the Deputy President was joined by various political leaders who reiterated their support for him, saying he has been bold enough in advancing the interests of the mountain despite constant attacks.
Munapenda kudanganywa sana. Saa ile munadanganywa, munacheka na munamaliza. Lakini Rigathi wa Gachagua akisimama awaambie ukweli, munaanza kukunyata hapo mkikasirika. Wewe bwana Rigathi, ongea ukweli, maombi ya hawa bishop, kwa sababu mke yako ni mchungaji, ametembea hapa na tumefanyia hii siasa. Tumetafutia hii serikali ya Kenya Kwanza viti. Hautatoka kama mtu ambaye ameaibishwa.
Injili ambayo naibu rais amekuwa akihubiri ni kwamba wanamlima waungane. Naibu rais hajawahi hata siku moja, na kama kunaye aliyemsikia anikosoe, hajawahi hata siku moja kusema kwamba mlima uungane, pwani wasiungane. Jibu ni kwamba mlima waungane, pwani waungane, Nyanza waungane, halafu sote tuje tuungane kama Wakenya.
They have called for the unity of all communities in advancing the nation's development agenda.
The Deputy President is not a Deputy President by choice. He's a Deputy President and he has to complete his term. So any program that they are bringing in, trying to undermine him, trying to show that he cannot work, hiyo story ni ajaba. Hiyo story iendi mahali na tunawaongojea bungeni wafike.
They emphasized that despite the ongoing political challenges, it is crucial for leaders and citizens alike to prioritize the collective goods. During his address, Gachagua highlighted the significance of maintaining peace in Lamu, a region endowed with rich resources, including vast opportunities in the blue economy. He called on the diverse communities within the county to come together, noting that it's only through collective action that Lamu reach its full potential.
Watu wote waendelee kuishi kwa amani na wote wapendane. Hapa Lamu ndio kwetu kwa kila mtu. Hakuna mtu wako na boma ingine. All those who are here, this is your home. Let's live with everybody, irrespective of this or that community.
Addressing concerns raised by some local leaders regarding the use of sniffers dogs at roadblocks, the Deputy President reassured the public of their vital role in enhancing security.
The crimes in Lamu are complicated. You are talking of terrorism and banditry. Tunaongea mambo ya explosives. Those sniffer dogs unalamika juu yake. Ndio iko na utaalamu katika dunia nzima ya kunusa na kujua. Na uzuri ya hiyo umbwa huwezi pea hongo.
Na nimesikia vile watu viongozi walivyoongea kuhusu uteuzi wa deputy governor, na niwaambie mimi sina haraka. Hata kabla sijamzika rafiki yangu, mimi sitaki kusikia maneno ya kumchagua huyu ama yule. Wacha mwanzo tumlazi, alafu tuangalie hiyo maneno.
The government has rolled out new regulations to govern employment both locally and abroad. The regulations unveiled by Labour CS Alfred Mutua are aimed at enhancing fair labour practices and clamping down on illegal recruitment agencies known to dupe Kenyans with false promises of lucrative jobs. The regulations will govern operations at the National Employment Authority, the National Industrial Training Authority and recruitment agencies. Ben Chumba with details of the new measures.
In what could spell a new dawn for recruitment agencies and employers, the government has unveiled new measures aimed at governing their operations. Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Dr. Alfred Mutua says the new regulations are aimed at cleaning up the sector and expanding job opportunities for Kenyans overseas. Speaking during a high-level meeting with stakeholders from county governments, the Department of Immigration and various financial institutions, Dr. Mutua pledged to crack down on drug recruitment agencies. Among the new changes is the introduction of financial partners to support recruitment agencies through provision of credit facilities for job seekers to pay recruitment fees upfront.
The main aim is to reduce or remove any requirement of a person seeking work from coming up with their own money to pay you to process their documents to overseas. You will get your money when you are paid for the services that you're providing by getting them to go for the job overseas.
Additionally, recruitment agencies will be subjected to stringent vetting procedures, including an initial registration fee of 500,000 shillings for a 2-year certificate.
They know their rights. We will be telling them, for example, that nobody has a right to hold a passport. Once you get overseas, you keep that passport. It is your identity card. No person overseas should hold the passport of a Kenyan.
We've been having challenges whereby people are being conned by agents. So if they include the DCI part of it, that whoever has issues is stopped from working, then we will stop having people being conned their money.
At the same time, Mombasa County government says it is preparing to flag off a team of Kenyans who are set to work abroad.
New reforms will improve on the welfare of Kenyans who will be working in the diaspora, and that as a county we are also in support of this program because we will want to have our first airlift batch which should be leaving in the next 2-3 months once we have ratified our documents.
We want to create opportunities for the residents of Mombasa to seek opportunities in the diaspora. So we came to learn about the reforms being put in place and how we can align our policies to ensure that those who seek opportunities abroad are able to be empowered.
Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
The government, through the Ministry of Education, has reiterated its readiness in ensuring a seamless transition of the Grade 8 learners to Grade 9 under the new competency-based curriculum. Principal Secretary for Education, Belio Kipsang, says the government is enhancing the infrastructural system in all schools across the country to accommodate all learners. This and more in our county's News Roundup.
Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, who spoke during a school's assessment exercise in Nyandarua County, said the government is currently constructing 11,000 classrooms across the country to enhance a smooth transition of learners under the new curriculum.
We did train our teachers. We have supplied all the instructional materials required in terms of books. And therefore, we have fully implemented the competence-based education curriculum in our primary schools.
Meanwhile, a section of legislators drawn from Mount Kenya region have defended Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua following recent claims by some leaders for his ouster.
Naibu Rais hajawahi hata siku moja, na kama kunaye aliyemsikia anikosoe, hajawahi hata siku moja kusema kwamba mlima uungane, pwani wasiungane.
The Pentecostal Evangelistic Fellowship of Africa church leaders have opposed the government's plan to tax churches in the country, saying the move violates their freedom of worship.
You cannot tax an offering and a tithe that is given in a church on a Sunday or a weekday. That one we are saying no.
Also, two people identified as Bosco Thoya and Emmanuel Kazungu have been charged by a Tana River court for being in possession of 2 pieces of elephant tusks with a street value of 6 million shillings. And in Kisii County, the Tourism Fund has embarked on an exercise to train those in the hospitality industry on international best practices that seeks to expose those in the sector to emerging global trends.
Our culture is very potential. We want to have an activity that will attract the whole Kenya to Kisii County and also the globe.
Finally, healthcare system in Bungoma County is set for a major boost after receiving an array of medical equipment valued at 59.2 million shillings, marking a transformative step towards modernizing healthcare delivery in the region.
We've been able to procure some equipment, as our director has said, ranging from EMR and other medical supplies to improve the quality of care to the patients and at the same time ensure that documentation is right.
John Kahiro, Prime Edition.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. Transport around Lake Victoria has gotten a major boost following the launch of Kenya's second vessel, MV Uhuru 2. The new vessel that was handed over to the Kenya Railways Corporation today can transport up to 22 loaded wagons amounting to up to 1,800 metric tons of cargo. As Wycliffe Oketch reports, the vessel will help Kenya increase fuel shipments to Uganda, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda and Burundi.
Uganda and the northern frontier of the East African region consume an estimated 1.5 billion litres of oil every year. Kenya is targeting to capitalize on this development to grow its maritime sector through freight services. The handover of the MV Uhuru 2 to the Kenya Railways Corporation by the Kenya Shipyard Limited marks a deliberate strategy by the government to leverage the country's emerging shipbuilding industry for economic growth.
MV Uhuru 2, which has an increased cargo capacity of its predecessor MV Uhuru 1, is poised to transform logistics in East Africa, increasing Kenya Railways' ability to growing regional demand for efficiency cargo transportation.
The operationalization of the vessel will open new avenues for trade and commerce, creating jobs and stimulating economic activities across the Lake Victoria Basin.
The new vessel, with a capacity to transport up to 1,800 metric tons of crude oil, now allows Kenya to make at least 3 trips to the neighboring countries every week.
I want to say today, the key cargo now that is going to be moving across this ship is steel products, what we call billets, coils, and other manufactured finished products.
Both MV Uhuru 1 and MV Uhuru 2 have a combined capacity of over 3,000 metric tons, which the country seeks to leverage in its long-term strategy to shift focus away from road transport.
I think there is great opportunity. We do consume some 8 cargoes of LR2, and LR2 does 80 million metric tons or 80 million liters every month, and we do take 8 ships every month. So there is great opportunity in this industry.
Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya urged government agencies and devolved units to maximize the expertise of the Kenya Shipyard Limited to grow the country's emerging shipbuilding industry and in turn spur the country's economic growth.
The intergovernmental nexus is very, very important for the job creation opportunities, enhanced GDP, and the overall improvement of the livelihoods of the Kenyan population.
If you look at our budget, your products are featuring prominently in some of the things that we're going to procure.
KSL as a company remains committed to catalyzing the shipbuilding industry in the East African region and beyond.
MV Uhuru 2 is Kenya's first locally assembled vessel, giving the nascent shipbuilding industry in Kenya a major boost. The government says that the MV Uhuru 2 right behind me here is the demonstration of the beginning of the government's deliberate strategy to utilize the Kenya Shipyards Limited that is housed here at the Kisumu port to maximize the usage of this facility in a bid to spur the growth of the maritime sector and generally the economic growth of the Lake Basin region. For Channel 1 from Kisumu County, I am Wycliffe Okech.
Well, to some good news now, where you will access national parks at no charge on Saturday, 28th of September 2024 as part of UN World Tourism Day celebrations and to promote domestic tourism. Here is Regina Manyara with the details for you.
Even though Kenya has 24 national parks, 15 national reserves and 6 marine parks, just 2.5 million visitors toured the facilities in 2022. Most of those who visit the national parks and reserves are international tourists. This is partly blamed on low awareness and high park entry fee.
The Cabinet did approve that on the 28th of September this year, we will allow all Kenyans to visit our national parks without any charge. I ask Kenyans to come out in their numbers, just go and sample the beauty of our wildlife, go and see the work that is being done in national parks, and appreciate deeply the need to manage and conserve our wildlife.
On Saturday the 28th of this month, you all will access any of the 24 national parks at no charge, as the government has waived park entry fee. And this is why.
It is a week to showcase the magic of Kenya in terms of our beaches, our safaris, our culture, and other niche products that we have in the country.
That's what we need to have, you know. Go to Turkana, look at the origin of humankind, you know, look at what is there. You know, go to Samburu, go to every other part of the country, because every county in Kenya has got a touristic attraction. It is there. So we need to, marketing Kenya is a collective responsibility of all of us.
Kenya is accelerating sustainable tourism drive that involves encouraging tourists to support sustainable tourism practices. Kenya is keen on tapping into the multi-billion shilling sustainable tourism niche sector and close ranks with the likes of Iceland, New Zealand and Costa Rica, who market themselves as sustainable tourism hotspots. In addition, hospitality industry players are being encouraged to green their operations through initiatives such as use of clean energy. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
The government says the new horticulture code of practice will ensure safety standards are adhered to in the horticultural industry in Kenya. The Agriculture and Food Authority says the code, dubbed KS 1758, covers the production, handling and marketing of fruits, flowers, vegetables, herbs and spices. Local agribusiness company Farmbees Africa now wants the government to train farmers on the implementation of the KS 1758 food safety standards in a bid to enhance sustainability, food safety and market competitiveness.
Introduced in 2016, the KS 1758 Horticulture Code of Practice is anchored on 4 pillars of environmental sustainability, food safety, worker health and safety and plant health. The regulations provide clear guidelines on pest controls, transportation and storage of plant, among others. According to the Farmbees Africa, the new standards will improve the overall quality of agricultural produce in Kenya. This focus on safety and quality is expected to boost consumer confidence both domestically and in international markets, ultimately increasing demand for Kenyan horticultural products. Farmbees Africa further says the standards will foster a more transparent agricultural environment. The emphasis on regular self-audits will further promote accountability and continuous improvement within the sector. As farmers align their practices with national and international standards, Kenya's horticultural industry is expected to enhance its reputation, opening doors to new export opportunities. The sector is a major foreign exchange earner for Kenya, raking in 187 billion shillings in 2023.
Kenya is at an advanced stage of securing a 32.4 billion shillings loan from India that will partly be used in enhancing value addition at county aggregation and industrial parks.
Kenya exported products worth 10.5 billion shillings to India last year and imported goods valued at 269 billion shillings. The two countries are seeking to narrow the trade deficit that is in favor of India by boosting value addition in Kenya. This is through a 32.4 billion shillings loan to support Kenya's agriculture value addition ventures.
$250 million. For us, we are looking at how it can improve value addition.
Are really looking at how we can step up and find mutually beneficial projects that help grow the partnership and that add value to the economy of Kenya.
Out of the total loan, 13 billion shillings will go towards strengthening county aggregation and industrial parks.
We have 19 county aggregation and industrial parks, and most of them have identified agricultural value addition as a critical component.
In addition, India plans to advance Kenyan SMEs who import machinery and equipment from the Asian market grants worth 2 billion shillings.
And part of these funds are supporting the small and micro enterprise development, and more importantly, those enterprises that import machines and equipment from India.
Indian pharmaceuticals firms have committed to establish subsidiaries in Kenya as a gateway into Africa.
Since I don't have details, but I can just say in general we support Indian companies to strengthen business engagement in Kenya, and as government we remain supportive of that.
The Kenya-India Joint Trade Committee is expected to finalize discussions in 2 months. Benson Drioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Imerahisishwa sasa, kuna njia mpya na rahisi ya kucheza avieta. Dial *419# kwenye simu yako na ucheze wakati wowote.
Oya, umeupdate token mita yako? Ni free. Umesapata SMS kutoka Kenya Power? Sawa. Sasa ni kuweka code 1 kureset. Alafu weka code 2 ku-update. Karada, mtozi kulipishe. Usiachwe gizani nani. Update token mita yako leo. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Kenya Power and Lighting Company.
Living in Nairobi can feel like you're constantly bombarded with stressful sounds 24/7. So, can sounds like these instruments help with stress management?
Welcome back. Environmentalists are calling for swift operationalization of the National Climate Change Fund to secure both domestic and international resources for climate adaptation of resilience efforts. They estimate that Kenya requires $62 billion to achieve a just and equitable transition toward a greener economy. They say the funds are crucial for key sectors like agriculture, energy, transport, and infrastructure, which are highly vulnerable to climate change and significant sources of greenhouse gas emissions.
As the world grapples with the urgent challenges of climate change, countries are increasingly adopting the concept of a just transition to guide their shift towards greener and more sustainable economies. A just transition ensures that the cost of moving to a greener economy are not disproportionately borne by the poorest and the most vulnerable population.
And this comes in terms of us imagining that every intervention, however small, will be significant in contributing into the bigger picture. And nobody should be left behind in this concept.
Involvement and participation of that grassroots woman. Allow her to come into this table and let her speak in Luo, let her speak in Kamba, let her speak in Nandi, and we hear what she has to say. Because she has an answer to the things that are affecting her.
Although Kenya is making strides towards a low-carbon economy, socio-economic challenges persist, particularly for the vulnerable communities. Environmentalists are calling for stronger multi-stakeholder engagement, inclusive governance, targeted climate-smart initiatives, and sufficient financing to ensure a just and equitable transition.
We see nature-based solutions as one way of actually helping to climate-proof our infrastructure. And we are actually doing a cost-benefit analysis. We are doing damage assessments and actually providing dollar sums so that these can be factored.
About 60% is from domestic sources. Then about 40% globally is estimated to be needed from external finance, international sources. Of course, there needs to be reform. The finance that we have in the world is neither enough nor high enough quality.
They emphasized the importance of embracing innovative, climate-smart agriculture practices, noting that transitioning to resilient and regenerative agriculture is key to reducing vulnerabilities and addressing existing inequalities.
We need innovations in terms of systems, social systems, the economic systems. All of these need to kind of be revisited and revised to ensure that we have equity, to ensure that we have inclusivity.
To achieve net zero emissions by 2050, investment amounting to $594 billion are needed. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
In a strategic move to enhance food security and scale sustainable poultry operations in sub-Saharan Africa, Norwegian Development Finance Institution and Ivans Group, which is a poultry breeder and supplier of poultry feeds, has signed a 2.3 billion shillings financing agreement to expand and scale poultry production in Kenya, Tanzania, Botswana and Mozambique. Part of the agreement involves establishment of an ultra-modern farm in Tanzania that will breed parent stock and help reduce the timeline and logistical challenges of importation.
We, as an institution, we invest to improve lives and create jobs in developing countries. And one of our core sectors is agribusiness and manufacturing. And we invest in sustainable businesses that are improving lives in the continent.
So within agribusiness, we are focusing on the agribusiness value chain, as the investment in Urban is an example of. Within manufacturing, we're focusing on two specific sectors. One is local production for local consumption, and the other one is export-oriented businesses.
We're building an ultra-modern, best-in-the-world operation to produce the absolute best genetics that will then provide the chicks for our customers. Vital part of our business. Second thing we have to do is to build a feed mill so that we can build or produce nutrition for those chickens that will optimize their performance for that smallholder farmer.
The government has begun the process of offloading over 58% of its stake spread across 6 listed state-owned enterprises in the National Securities Exchange. National Treasury and Economic Planning Cabinet Secretary John Badi says through the capital markets, the government aims to enhance accountability for the performance of commercial state corporations.
Following approvals of the divestiture of the state's shareholding in 6 listed firms on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, including its shareholding in the bourse itself, by the Cabinet in June 2024, the government is making good its promise of using the capital markets to streamline government institutions.
The government remains committed to ensuring that capital markets is at the center of the government plans to divest from state-owned enterprises under the privatization program. This is expected to pick up once we create a sustainable pipeline of transactions to be executed through NSE. I expect collaboration among the CMA, NSE, the National Treasury and Economic Planning and other capital market industry stakeholders to make the privatizations program a resounding success.
The companies include East African Portland Cement Limited, with government stake of 25.3%, and the National Social Security Fund NSSF stake of 27%, the Nairobi Securities Exchange 3.36%, and Housing Finance Company of Kenya. Now the government is targeting acceleration of this exercise to coincide with the introduction of reforms at the capital markets.
So the government is currently on top gear, driving progressive reforms aimed at enhancing the performance of the economy and safeguarding the gains made are not only an end in itself or in themselves, but also an impetus for the development of the capital markets.
Speaking at the launch of NSE bond market reforms, CS Mbadi pointed to tapping into private sector knowledge in a bid to induce economic growth and streamline government procurement systems.
We just need to be disciplined in our use of public resources. We must eliminate open theft of public resources. That is where the answer lies. We are stealing from ourselves every day and we don't get satisfied.
The government hopes that divestiture in state companies will optimize the contributions in the realization of national development. Alanoko, Prime Edition.
Renowned for its pristine beaches and rich culture, skydiving has been introduced to experiences in Kilifi, spicing your tourism adventure. Tonight on Magical Scenes, Muchuma Odim focuses on adrenaline rush diving that offers you beautiful views of the coastal region and the Indian Ocean.
The sound of the wind rushing past, the breathtaking views of the Azure Ocean, and the exhilarating freefall skydiving offers an experience to remember. With its stunning coastline, lush landscapes, and warm tropical climate, Kilifi County provides the perfect backdrop for this thrilling adventure, attracting both seasoned skydivers and first-timers eager to take the plunge.
We check you in, you do the paperwork basically, and then we go to the airport, which is inside Vipingo Ridge. Our plane is based there. Climb up to altitude to 12,000 feet, jump above the Indian Ocean. You have a free fall for about a minute, which means without the parachute being open.
As they prepare for your jump, the anticipation builds. Participants are briefed by certified instructors who emphasize safety and technique, ensuring that even those new to skydiving feel confident and ready to embrace the adventure. Each jump begins with a scenic flight over Kilifi's breathtaking coastline, offering divers to the panoramic view of the shimmering ocean and the lush greenery. At an altitude of 10,000 feet, the moment arrives. the door of the aircraft swings open and the world below transforms into a patchwork of vibrant colors. With a deep breath, you leap, experiencing an adrenaline rush. The sensation of free fall is thrilling as you plummet towards the earth, feeling the thrill of weightlessness. A soft landing on paradise as the parachute deploys. The rush of the air subsides and you are gently guided back to earth. The landing itself is a soft touch on the pristine shores. Where the warm sun welcomes you back to reality.
As I was coming down with my instructor, I mean, I could just see everything, and it was just beautiful. And like I was saying, my mind cleared. You know, how often we're always thinking. For those 45 seconds, my mind was clear, and it was just peaceful, beautiful. And then the canopy part, coming down slowly, and just observing the whole coast, and it's beautiful.
Kuko na emergency parachute. Hii main parachute ikikataa kufunguka, kuko na hiyo emergency.
So strap on your gear and take the leap into the beauty of Kilifi, where the sky is not the limit, but just the beginning. Mchuma Udim, Magical Sense in the county of Kilifi.
Asset financier Mogo Kenya received a 1.3 billion Kenyan shilling loan from the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, that's the DFC, to expand its electric vehicle financing portfolio. The funding will support Kenyans' green mobility initiatives by providing financing for zero-emission vehicles to businesses and individuals in the transportation sector. Betty Kitum had a sit-down with Thomas Sedenius, the CEO of Mogo Africa and Asia, to discuss what the fund means for uptake of e-mobility products in the region.
Hello and thank you for watching KBC Channel 1. It is now time for an interactive session. My name is Betty Kiptum. We would like to discuss matters e-mobility. What is the uptake looking like? What is the private sector doing to ensure that this uptake is increased? And what does it mean, especially in terms of climate-related changes? And to have this conversation is Thomas Sedenius. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Eleving Vehicle Finance. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Betty, for having me.
Karibu sana. So maybe we can just start at the financing that was received recently by Mogo, which is your subsidiary. 1.3 billion Kenya shillings is not a small amount of money. Yeah? Please
Absolutely.
tell us, how is this going to change the landscape for Kenya?
The money that we received as a funding from DFC, American Development Financial Corporation, is fully dedicated to financing electric vehicles, electric border in Kenya. So our belief is that in the next 2 years, we will finance more than 10,000 electric borders in Nairobi, Mombasa, coastal area, and hopefully in other cities around Kenya.
So when you look at the uptake of electric vehicles, automobiles for that matter, what is it that will influence someone's decision to go buy an electric vehicle or an electric bike as opposed to getting, the normal fuel-run ones?
That's a very good question. What we learned from our customers, first, that they save on fuel. So electricity is cheaper than filling the petrol, and we've all seen how much the petrol prices can increase. That's one reason. Riders actually really like these bikes, electric bikes, because they're fast, they're very dynamic, and they're also quiet. Third reason is the climate change aspect. And last but not least, we believe that it's also good for the Kenyan economy, because whereas all the fuel is imported from Middle East and other countries, electricity is generated locally. So it's actually money staying in the country instead of paying for fuel.
Of course, Kenya's electricity, 85% of it is generated from renewable energy sources. Yes. So that is a very strong point, you know, to have an electric vehicle. But beyond having that electric vehicle, you need charging points and all these other infrastructure that support that ecosystem. How do you think Kenya is doing, and what more can be done?
So I think there are a lot of companies coming into this space. Unfortunately, none of the big players that have been here historically have electric border, but there are a lot of startups like Rome, Ampersand, Arkwright, and we partner with all of them, and we try to bring both electric borders but also electric charging or battery swapping infrastructure into the country. And one thing that I didn't mention in my previous answer is that big benefit is that the rider can save about 150 to 200 shillings a day just on fuel and also on maintenance, because since there are these electric bikes, you don't need to change oil, you don't need to change filters, and that adds up over the lifetime of a bike, and that's a saving that stays in the border rider's pocket.
So when you look at the infrastructure, of course this is not a job that will be done by one sector. It's government, it's private sector and development partners. What would you say that needs to be done to increase the uptake in terms of, people will tell you, I don't want an electric vehicle because I'm traveling a very long distance. How sure am I can get it charged in time, and also the charging period? So what can be done to improve those dynamics?
I think the industry has to come together, and the government. So of course, the industry needs support from the government. I think that's very clear, and also from Kenyan Power, because this is a new industry, it's growing, it's very hard for it to finance itself, and this is where we are coming in and helping it grow. But also, number of swapping stations needs to grow. First of all, in metropolitan areas like Nairobi, so some of the brands already have 40, 50 swapping stations around Nairobi. This is quite significant presence, but at the same time, if you look at the on the map, you will still find some areas without swapping. I believe that will change in the next 2 years.
Which is a positive thing, and hopefully it will increase uptake. The biggest motivator to go the electric side is the sustainability of it. Of course, we know that the transport sector in Kenya is a very big contributor to the emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions. So what needs to be done to ensure that more people, especially in the public transport sector, are taking up electric vehicles or electric bikes?
So I think it's a mix of reasons, but we believe that border riders, if they see the value, and first and foremost, it needs to be saving for them, right? They need to bring more money home for themselves and for their families. I think the adoption will speed up. And to have that saving, a lot of things need to fall together. So one is, of course, some of the tax incentives that the government had and now are under question lately. Given the latest developments, it's also financing companies like ourselves offering better terms to the riders who take electric vehicles. It's also the companies themselves offering good product that the riders would trust. So I think it's basically a combination of these things. But ultimately, if there is a saving, if the rider likes the bike, if he's confident that he can drive, that he will find a swapping station, they will change.
Right.
I'm confident in that.
Awesome. You mentioned the tax incentives just now, and I'm curious from a private sector player's perspective, what is your thought on the regulatory environment, policy and regulatory environment in Kenya around e-mobility?
So I think the administration has done a great job in bringing tax incentives for EVs. unfortunately, with latest development and unfortunately for EV industry and the 2023 finance bill being challenged in court, it kind of raises questions if these incentives are still in place or not, and we're waiting to see that. And I think these are very critical for the industry, for the manufacturers and importers of EV bikes to see. And in terms of regulatory environment, we're regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya, and we follow the guidelines and regulation of CBK.
A lot of business persons complain of the unpredictability of the tax environment in Kenya, given that, you know, it changes every other year. What are your thoughts in terms of, or what would you tell government in terms of ensuring that the tax environment or the regulatory environment is predictable for business persons?
I think it has been a challenge, and I think the changes themselves, right? Would be good to know what the tax environment will be for the next 3 years or 5 years, and then we could plan accordingly. So I think a little bit of stability would be appreciated.
Right. Do you foresee a time when there will be more local manufacturing in terms of the automobile industry in Kenya, especially now that we are shifting to e-mobility?
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the policy of the government, is making sure that the new players that come in, that they have to do assembly and part of manufacturing in the country. And I think this is absolutely right approach. It creates jobs. So I think all the three brands that we have here, they all do assembly or part of assembly in the country. And I think there will be more and more of that. Certain components, yes, they come from abroad, unfortunately, but I think this country has a lot of potential in building and manufacturing a lot of parts that go into the bike, from frames to seats to lights, etc.
When you look at the comparative, do electric vehicles or automobiles even have a competitive advantage in terms of pricing as compared to the fuel-run ones?
Unfortunately, now they're more expensive, and I think it has to do with scale. And as more and more will come, the price of the bike should drop.
And would local manufacturing help in reducing that price?
I believe so, yes.
All right. So, as you look ahead, what are you looking to achieve in the short term, next 5 years or so?
So we have a lot of interesting ideas how we can contribute, because we operate also in petrol bike space, in the traditional bike space. We have branches around Kenya. We have over 40 locations. So some of the things where we can use our network and our infrastructure to support the industry and the development. One example is of the new product we're planning to launch is a trade-in model where our customers or customers from anyone will be able to come with their petrol bike and trade it in for the electric vehicle. And that would make it more affordable, because one of the challenges actually for the riders is at the moment is that if you're a good rider, you have your own bike. So if you want to switch to electric, what do you do with your petrol bike? And you have limited options, and most people to choose it, to give it to cousin, to brother, and basically to rent it out. But we will give an alternative to such customers of actually trading it in for electric vehicle. And we will take care of the old petrol bike.
Right. You not only operate in Kenya,
yes,
you're in the region as well as in other continents. So when we talk about the African continent, how would you compare Kenya's performance, especially in the kind of business that you're dealing in?
So we have border financing both in Kenya and Uganda. And Kenya is our largest market in the group. This is we've been very excited to be here. I think the last year has been a bit more challenging because of economy, and I think it was challenging for everyone, the whole population. Moving forward, we see great opportunities. So yes, some of the markets we operate in, including border, have been more stable, more predictable. But we look forward to grow even bigger and to launch additional products and to facilitate the financing of EV bikes and other bikes in the Kenyan market.
Right. One of the challenges that people are facing when they're being financed to get such products is paying back.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are you seeing in terms of your numbers, in terms of people honoring their paying?
So it has improved lately a lot. We are also trying to be a bit more conservative in terms of whom we give credit to, the financing facility. So that's very important, and we're learning, right? We're trying to do better and better on that. At the same time, we work very hard with customers who face challenges. So if you miss a payment, but the customer is communicating, he's answering the phone, we would always find a solution, and we understand that border riders live, hand to mouth, and they don't have a stable salary. They need to make money for themselves, and sometimes they have issues, be it health problems or some other challenges. So we work very hard to make sure that we can support them as long as possible and give them a break if they need to.
Right. And do you do any sensitization programs, especially in terms of responsible borrowing and all that, to just improve their financial responsibility? Yeah.
So we launched a financial literacy tool, and we do it around the world, where every Kenyan and people from other countries as well can assess their financial situation. Right? You can. It's a very simple tool. It's very easy to use, but it helps you to calculate how much money you're getting, how much you're saving, how much you're putting for the worst case scenario. And if you're thinking about an investment or you're thinking about taking a loan, it also allows you to see, can you afford it? On top of that, we as a company, for every customer we finance, we also do that, even though we're not required by law. But for 100% of customers that we finance, we also check their income or the income they report, and we check, can the customer afford to take a loan? And if we see that they don't, we reject those customers.
Right. And well, for the border business, how do you see the income that they report?
So part of it is actually doing an interview with a customer and asking questions, but big part of it comes from M-Pesa. So we ask the riders themselves to share in their M-Pesa statement, and that is used as for credit scoring purposes. So we actually see that transactions, how much money coming into M-Pesa account, and that helps a lot for us to score the customer and identify the good profile customers that make reasonable income, that can afford to buy a new bike and pay back the loan for the bike, and have sufficient money left to provide for themselves and their families.
Definitely, that is very important. Let's talk about the startups ecosystem.
Yes.
We have seen a lot of funding coming into this region, over the past few years. Why is it attractive? Let's start there.
I can share how I fell in love with Kenya.
Sure thing.
I think the people are great. They're very entrepreneurial, hardworking. So I think that draws a lot of investments from abroad. It's also a regional center. But I think what was one of the key decision makers for us to invest in Kenya is I would say the technology and the infrastructure that's here. We just talked about M-Pesa. In our company, we don't use any cash. Everything, we disburse all the money either through bank or M-Pesa. We collect all the money from M-Pesa. So that type of technological advancement, and I think Kenya is leading in the region. And that helps a lot when you want to launch a new business. It's just easier to do. So I think that draws a lot of startups. If we're talking about the EV transition as well, a lot of companies come here because they believe that if you succeed in Nairobi, you can do it in Kampala and other places regionally. So, and it's just a great place to be.
It is a great place to be. We have seen a number of startups going down over the past few years, despite enormous funding that they have received.
Yes.
Are there any lessons you've learned, and maybe what are you doing to ensure that we don't, hear the same story about Mogo in the next few years?
Yeah, so I want to emphasize one thing that I think is a bit different with Mogo, is that we're part of a big international group operating 16 countries around the world, and the group is doing very well. We're also operating as a public company, have quite a large bonds traded on Frankfurt Stock Exchange in Western Europe, etc. So we're very well capitalized as a group, and so that's one aspect. The second aspect, what we learned, and just looking at some of the competitors or other players, you need to find a profitable business model. I think that's the key. A lot of competitors, a lot of players in this market come with a little bit, I think it's profit first, impact second. When people who come in and start with impact as the key driver and profitability secondary, I think that's a recipe for failure. So we are very happy when we can create a positive impact on the society. But as a business, and this is sustainability aspect, we need to be profitable. We need to be a sustainable business as such.
Right.
And then we can do good at the same time.
Over a long period of time,
Over
right?
a long period of time.
Yeah, very important pointers there. So I think my next question would be about understanding the market that you're operating in. We have heard that some people are borrowing models from other markets and bringing them to Africa, and if you don't understand the market, that's what happens. So what would be your advice for people maybe who want to get into the startup industry? Yeah.
Oh, I've learned these lessons the hard way. I think you sometimes think that what works in one country will work in another, and then it's arrogance. You think you know better, and you don't. I think the biggest advice I can give, especially on the product fit, listen to local people. Don't, we're talking about electric bikes. Don't design a bike, an European or somebody wants to drive or ride. You need to do it with the local border rider, because he knows better. And I think that applies to any product we talk about, and including financial services, because otherwise you can be more efficient, you can bring some methods of working, some IT systems, some tools that from other markets, but the product fit, I think you need to actually talk to your customers here and see how the people live here and listen to them.
Listen to the local person.
Absolutely.
And localize your product.
Absolutely.
That is the message. So as we come to a close of the conversation, what would be your take in terms of the future of e-mobility in this country?
I think it has an amazing future. I strongly believe that it's only the beginning. So the ride might be bumpy. We might not see electric vehicles deployed as fast as we would like to. But I think that within next 3-5 years, you will see thousands and thousands of electric vehicles in Nairobi, in coastal region, and probably in other towns or cities across Kenya. And this will bring good benefits, big savings for the riders, cleaner air, but also good for the economy, as the cost of electricity or the charging is actually the money coming back and staying in Kenyan economy rather than leaving to the Middle East.
Right. Your closing remarks?
I appreciate the time and the opportunity, and I hope next time we will meet on, riding 2 electric borders together and enjoying the quiet ride.
I first need to learn how to ride a bike for that.
It's not that hard.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. Well, that is Thomas Sudnias. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Eleving Vehicle Finance, whose subsidiary here in Kenya is Mogo. And being that they have received that 1.3 billion shillings financing from the International Development Corporation, Development Finance Corporation, he says that it will be used to ensure that e-mobility uptake is improved in the country and, of course, in the region. That is a conversation that we've been having. My name is Betty Kiptum. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
Officially, the draw date ya multiplayer ni tarehe 6 mwezi wa Oktoba. Zidi kucheza, jaza tiketi zako ikiwa ni *570# option 400. Tucheze, tusaidie, tushinde!
That is too much. allowed to do that. Come on, girl. This is an independent country and I can do anything I want, okay? You hate to insult me. Majorly, eh? Now I will give you a piece of my mind. You are doing it because you want people's attention.
Pens, books on the table, total silence and speedy brain performance.
Malimo, our man.
I said pens, books on the table, total silence and speedy brain performance.
I think this school is cursed. Why do we always get these nutheads in the name of leaders? I can do a better job even without the school.
Time for sports action with Karen Kibet. Karen?
Thank you very much, Cynthia, for keeping us up to speed with the latest news in the world and in Kenya. It's now time for sports. My name is Karen Kibet. The national women's under-17 soccer team, the Junior Starlets, left the country today for Spain for a pre-World Cup camp in Marbella. The team, which is preparing to take part in the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in the Dominican Republic, will play a series of matches as they sharpen their skills in readiness for their debut on the global stage.
This year's Under-17 Women's World Cup will take place between the 16th of October and 3rd of November. Junior Starlets will kick off their group stage matches on 18th of next month against England. They'll face Korea Republic on 20th of October and complete their group fixtures against Mexico on 24th of October. Junior Starlets made history by becoming the first Kenya national football team to qualify for a FIFA World Cup. The team, coached by Mildred Cheche, qualified for the event after beating Burundi 5-0 on goal aggregate in the fourth and final round of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup Africa qualifiers. Elsewhere, the Kenya women's soccer team that will participate in the forthcoming Homeless World Cup departed for the championship on Wednesday evening ahead of the games scheduled 21st to 28th of September in Seoul, South Korea.
Say we are well prepared and are very much ready to face the challenge. And what I can say, thanks a lot for your prayers, and we wish that you keep on following us and support us.
It's my first time, and I'm so excited. I am so ready. From us, just expect the best. We are going to make our country proud.
The 19th edition of the showpiece is expected to attract up to 64 teams, 44 men's sides and 20 women teams.
Actually joyous because we are also facilitating a workshop on gender-based violence and mental health, creating awareness and having a global call to eradicate gender-based violence.
The AFC Leopards Corporate Task Force is set to tour Tanzania at the end of this month for benchmarking with Tanzania Giants, Yanga and Simba football clubs on best practices as the club lays down plans to undergo transformation from a community-based outfit to a corporate team.
The 8-member task force, chaired by Vincent Shimoli, will conduct a civic education across the country for all its 5,000 registered branch members and over 6 million fans on the benefits of going corporate in December, after which it will table its report to the club's national executive meeting in February next year upon the expiry of its 6-month tenure.
We are actually very definite of where we want to go because we have been operating as a society for the past 60 years, being the oldest club in Kenya and of course also most supported club in Kenya. We have undertaken to transition from a society to a corporate entity. The second TOR is we want to undertake civic education amongst members of the club and other stakeholders on the significance of transitioning from the current club's status to a corporate status.
Meanwhile, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Affairs CS Musalia Mudavadi has donated 2 million shillings to facilitate logistics of the task force, which needs at least 5 million to conduct its exercise for the 6-month period. It is estimated that the club will then switch from community to corporate by the end of next year, should the NEC adopt the task force recommendations upon the completion of its mandate.
We plan to go to Tanzania end of this month, and we will be there for about 3 days or so. And we just want to extensively understand the corporate model, what they do, and we just compare with other models so that we see what is the best model we can put forward for the FC Leopard.
North Korea will face Japan in the finals of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in Cali, Colombia, after they beat the USA 1-0 in the semi-finals. Japan beat Netherlands 2-0 in the second semi-final, thanks to Matsukubo's double. Ilson's goal midway through the first half was enough for North Korea to defeat the USA at Estadio Pascal Guerrero. Ilsons is currently the joint top scorer at the tournament with 5 goals. In the other semi-final, Manaka Matsukubo gave Japan the lead over the Netherlands just before the break to seal their victory, 7 minutes from time. The third-place playoff will take place on Saturday, with the final scheduled 24 hours later.
Range effort, smacks off the bar. I think that was an intentional try goal as well. Tegan Y was caught. Oh, Nilsson Cho played in with a delightful pass, and the finish.
And finally, Manchester City's UEFA Champions League campaign started on a sour note as they were frustrated by Inter Milan, who held them to a barren draw at Etihad Stadium, as PSG finally managed to find the back of the net against Girona, whom they beat 1-0 in injury time. And those were all the sports stories we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. Have yourself a peaceful night. My colleague Cynthia Nyamai is on the other side of the studio. She'll take it away. Cynthia.
Thank you, Karen Kibet. Now, I'd like to read some of the comments that some of you have sent. I have Agnes Chelgoy, who says, thank you so much for the stories tonight, and did actually challenge Muchuma Odim on the story that she did, diving in the air, and has asked Odim next time to do the sign-off on air, and I will definitely give her that challenge. From me and the rest of the team, we definitely want to wish you a very good night, and see you next Thursday.